Stop creating separate VPCs for every project in GCP. I just helped a company eliminate 47 redundant VPCs and cut their networking costs by 60% through eliminating redundant cloud NAT gateways, VPN tunnels, and interconnects that were duplicated across all those VPCs, while actually improving their security posture. Today I'm showing you exactly how shared VPC works and the IAM model that makes it possible.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Network Ninja Cloudcast. I'm really excited about this one because I've been struggling with exactly this problem.
Great to have you here. We're going to demystify GCP's shared VPC and show you why it's the secret weapon for multi-project architectures.
So here's my frustration. We have like 12 different GCP projects for different teams, and each one has its own VPC with overlapping IP ranges. Managing firewall rules across all of them is a nightmare, and our network team is drowning in requests.
That's the classic symptom of what I call VPC sprawl. Every project gets its own network. You end up with inconsistent security policies, IP address conflicts when you try to peer networks, and no centralized visibility. I've seen organizations with hundreds of VPCs that can't even inventory their own network topology.
So shared VPC solves this by letting multiple projects use the same network?
Exactly. Think of it like a corporate office building. The building management, that's your host project, owns all the infrastructure, the electrical systems, plumbing, HVAC, and network cabling. The tenant companies, those are your service projects, just move in and use the infrastructure. They don't need to build their own plumbing. They just connect to what's already there. One important thing to know up front, a project can only be a host project or a service project, never both. And there's a default quota of 1,000 service projects per host project, so plan accordingly for large organizations.
So the host project owns the VPC and subnets, and service projects just deploy resources into those subnets?
Precisely. And here's where it gets technically interesting. In the host project, you create your VPC with subnets in specific regions. Let's say you create a subnet called Prada Central with CIDR block 10.0.1.0 out of 24 in US Central 1. Then you attach service projects to this host project using the shared VPC configuration. The easiest way to find it is to search for shared VPC in the console search bar, since the exact navigation path can change with console updates. You can also access it through the VPC network section or via IAM and admin for organization-level setup.
Wait, so if I'm in a service project and I spin up a compute engine instance, it gets an IP from that 10.0.1.0 out of 24 range, even though the subnet is defined in a different project?
That's right. The VM lives in your service project for billing and resource management, but its network interface connects to the shared subnet in the host project. You'll see this in the console. The instance shows up in your project, but the network and subnetwork fields reference the host project.
Okay, but here's what confuses me. How do permissions work? If I'm a developer in a service project, can I just deploy into any subnet in the host project?
This is where GCP's IAM model gets elegant. There are two key roles. First, someone needs the compute shared VPC admin role. That's roles/compute.xpn admin. This can be granted at the organization, folder, or even project level depending on your needs. For enabling a specific host project, project-level assignment is sufficient, but org or folder level gives broader administrative scope. This person can enable host projects and attach service projects. Second, and this is crucial, you need to grant subnet-level permissions.
Subnet level? Not just project level?
Right, and this is the security model that makes shared VPC powerful. You grant the compute network user role, that's role/compute.network-user, on specific subnets to specific service accounts or users. So your front-end team might only have access to the web tier subnet with CIDR 10.0.10.0 out of 24, while your database team has access to the data tier subnet at 10.0.20.0 out of 24.
Oh, that's like giving different tenants in our office building access cards that only work for certain floors.
Perfect analogy. And it extends further. The firewall rules are defined in the host project, so your network team maintains centralized security policies. Service project users can't modify those rules. They can only deploy resources into subnets they have access to, using the network configuration your team has already secured.
What about service accounts? Like if I have a GKE cluster that needs to create nodes?
Critical point. And this trips people up. When you deploy GKE in a service project using shared VPC, multiple service accounts need the compute network user role on the subnets where nodes will be created. You've got the GKE service agent, which follows the format service project _ number at containerenginerobot.iam.gserviceaccount.com. but you also need to grant it to the Compute Engine Service Agent at service_project_number at computesystem.iam.gserviceaccount.com. And if you're using custom node service accounts, those need the role too. Miss any of these and your cluster creation will fail with permission errors.
What's the biggest mistake you see people make with shared VPC?
Two things. First, not planning subnet sizing. Once you share a /24 subnet across 5 service projects, you've only got 252 usable IPs split between them. GCP reserves 4 addresses per subnet, the first 2 for the network address and default gateway, and the last 2 for broadcast-related purposes. I recommend at minimum /22 subnets for shared environments, giving you over 1,000 addresses. Second mistake is forgetting about secondary ranges for GKE. If you're running Kubernetes, you need separate secondary ranges for pods and services. These are defined on the subnet in the host project, and here's the good news. When a service project user has compute network user access to a subnet, they automatically have access to use its secondary ranges. No separate sharing configuration needed.
Let me make sure I've got this. Shared VPC has a host project that owns the VPC, subnets, and firewall rules. Service projects attach to it and deploy resources into shared subnets. A project can only be one or the other, not both. IAM controls who can use which subnets through the compute network user role, and the network team keeps centralized control while teams stay autonomous in their own projects.
Nailed it. My pro tip, start with shared VPC from day one, even if you only have 2 projects. Retrofitting later means migrating VMs and recreating network configurations. It's painful. Set up the host project early and thank yourself later.
That's it for today's episode. If you found this helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.
And if you're managing multiple GCP projects, go try this in your console today. Search for shared VPC in the console search bar and start planning your host project.
Share this with anyone drowning in VPC sprawl.
Thanks for watching the Network Ninja Cloudcast. See you in the next one.